Christian parenting.
Aloha, friends. Welcome to the Boy Mom Podcast, powered by Christian Parenting and hosted by my mom, Monica Swanson. On the Boy Mom Podcast, it is our goal to provide you with practical advice and biblical wisdom for raising boys in this sometimes crazy world. You can find show notes for the podcast over at monicaswanson.com/podcast. We're so glad you're here.
Aloha, friends. How are you? I hope everybody's doing well. I am so excited to be here today. I've got a solo episode for you, except not really. It's me and 7 friends today, and I can't wait to share all 7 with you. But let me back up and explain just a little bit. So if you've been around a while, or if you've read my blog or my book, Boy Mom, you know that I love to talk about character, raising character-rich kids. And the reason why is because this is something I always wanted to do, but when I had kids of my own, I discovered that it was not as easy as I had hoped it would be. And I dug in and I learned a ton. I made mistakes along the way, but I learned from a lot of amazing people. And over time, my efforts did pay off. And I realized that we really can raise character-rich kids if we're intentional about it. No, there are no guarantees, but with the right resources and the right tools, there is a whole lot we can do as parents. Well, the other thing I love to talk about is the teenage years and how when my boys hit their teenage years, I discovered new challenges. And I especially love to share the story about something I did with one of my boys when we went through an especially frustrating season. And after sharing that story in Boy Mom, I heard back from so many parents who wanted to hear more, who wanted to learn more, especially about the teenage years, but really about this topic of character. And so this all led me to putting together the character training course where I could share foundations of character, where I could share lessons and modules about some of the things we've done over the years, as well as interviews with other people who add such an important voice, different perspective on the topic of raising kids of character, and a bunch of helpful practical printables that you can go over with your kids or on your own. And I have had so much fun and worked so hard on putting together the character training course. And many of you remember that last July, I launched the beta group for the character training course. The beta group was just 100 people who would take the course, give me feedback, and help me refine it so that I could make sure it had everything people would need and want. And I've been spending the last couple months adding to the course and getting such good feedback. I'm so encouraged to hear that people loved it, that they were putting it into practice right away, seeing changes in their kids, and just really feeling inspired. I think what I loved most was hearing so many people say they just felt hope, they felt equipped, they felt confident that they had what it takes to raise kids of character, and that just blessed me. But the biggest thing I added to the course, I want to make sure you all know, is that we now have an entire module just for the early years. So originally the course was targeting parents of teens and tweens, but I decided that rather than make an entirely new course for the early years, I would add a module. So I've been working hard on that, and I love how it turned out so much. There's so much practical help there, an interview and a bunch of downloadable resources, and I think you're going to just love that. So obviously there's a whole lot more I could say about this. I'm clearly very passionate about it, but the most important thing to tell you is that the character training course is going to open next week. The doors will open on Monday, September 28th, and they're only open for 5 days. They're going to close again on Friday, October 2nd. And so if you want to find out more about the course, what all is in it, take a look at some of the modules, you can go straight over to monicaswanson.com/character-course, and you can check out more about what is in the course. Also, if you go to show notes for this podcast, I'll have links to it there as well. And show notes are always going to link you to anything we talk about here, and anyone I have in the interviews are going to be linked to in the show notes. And show notes are at monicaswanson.com/podcast. This is episode number 73. So guys, I'll have a few final words to say at the very end, but right now I'm excited to get to share with you something from the character training course. Yes, I have a whole bunch of interviews in the course that are so special to me. I reached out to specific people who I knew would add a whole lot to this course, and today I'm going to share with you 7 clips from 7 different interviews that I think are just so good. So I just chose some little snippets. Now, whether or not you can take the course this fall, it's okay if you can't, because I will launch it again in the future. I'm not sure when, but I will launch it another time in the future. But whether or not you can take the course this fall, I wanted to offer you something really special here, some nuggets that you can just take home and apply to your family right away. So I'm so excited to share these 7 clips from interviews, and then hopefully you can take the character training course and hear the full-length interviews with all 7 of these people. And again, this is just 7. There are more that you will find in the course, and so hopefully you'll get to catch all those. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy these clips, and I'll have a few final words to say at the end, but without further ado, here we go. I hope you enjoy. The first interview I'm going to share here is with Jonathan Pitts. Jonathan is an author, speaker, and the executive pastor at Church of the City in Franklin, Tennessee. He is also the late husband to Winter Pitts, who passed away suddenly 2 years ago. Jonathan has since then taken over Winter's ministry called For Girls Like You, a magazine and online ministry to tween and teen girls, and he's also raising their 4 daughters. Jonathan's perspective on the father-daughter relationship is really special, and I'm hoping a lot of the dads can catch this interview. So I hope you enjoy this little clip from Jonathan Pitts.
Well, I think the most important thing, I think we overcomplicate what it looks like to connect with our children, and specifically our daughters. So I think a lot of times dads have this sense that they can't connect with their daughters because they don't relate to them as well. But the most important thing I would say is presence, like just being there, literally being there, being intentional about your presence. I think it's easy for us to flip on the television, or even like not necessarily entertainment, but even like I remember one of the things I used to do is I would just put my earbuds in and listen to podcasts and do dishes. And God really convicted me of that, to just really be present with my girls, and just regardless whether I felt like it was funky or not, like just show up. And now I realize that the relationships I've built with my girls has come because I've just been there in regular moments, like there when they want to talk, there when they don't want to talk, there when they want to cry, there when they don't want to cry, there when they want to yell, there when they don't want to yell. And so you just build better communication and better understanding of who they are when you're actually around them. And I'm not just saying in the same room, but actually just intentionally engaging them.
Oh, I so appreciated Jonathan's perspectives. And of course, you can find more from him in the character training course. And next, I have a short clip from an interview with Ruth Chou Simons, artist, best-selling author, and homeschooling mom to 6 boys. Ruth and her husband Troy recently wrote the book Foundations, 12 Biblical Truths to Shape a Family. And Ruth and I are talking about family discipleship, family worship time, and I think her words will encourage and inspire you.
The parent is the primary influence in any child's life. And so it doesn't mean that it's only perfect parents or parents who went to seminary or the most godly, consistent Bible reading parents that are supposed to lead their children to Christ. No, it's any parent on any journey. You're the primary influence because you spend the most time. You have their hearts like nobody else. And so this is not, my point is not to say that a child who doesn't have believing parents can't get something wonderful at church. No, please continue to take kids to church and be discipled there. My point is just for those of us who have a walk with Jesus and we have kids in our homes, don't give up your God-given responsibility to be the discipler, right? The discipler is not the person who is the professional at the church or the one who is full-time there. You're the one who's been given this child to, as in Deuteronomy 6, to teach and recount God's faithfulness every day. When you rise, when you sleep, when you go along your way, that's an everyday mundane kind of way. That's not just, hey, can we recount it once a week on Sundays when somebody who's really good at storytelling tells your child how great God is. No, do it in the context of everyday life.
Those were some great reminders for all of us. Well, next, I have a clip from an interview with Dennis Trittin, author of several books, including What I Wish I Knew at 18. He is also the CEO of LifeSmart Publishing, but what I love is Dennis's background gives him such an awesome angle to add to the course. Dennis spent many years as a financial investment analyst managing multi-billion-dollar portfolios, and he shares with us perspectives on what employers are looking for in employees, and I just think he has such an encouraging message. I hope your kids can listen in on this one.
There was a really great study that was done several years ago in the state of Virginia, which is probably, of all states in the country, the one that is the most progressive in education. A lot of great companies and educational organizations are headquartered there. And they decided to do a study of employers throughout the state of Virginia. And it was commissioned by a local university together with the Career and Tech Education program in the state. And so there were all these interviews of employers. What are the qualities you look for most in your employees? And out of that came a listing of the 21 workplace readiness skills for the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's what it's called. And out of the 21, 16 of them were character and attitudinal related.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm going to just say that again. Out of the 21 qualities employers value the most, 16 of them had to do with our character, our attitudes, and how we relate to people.
This interview is actually one of my favorites. I just loved everything Dennis had to share. And he also offered an incredible printable that is part of the course that you can download and go over with your kids that I think will really inspire them. Okay, so next I have a clip from an interview with one of my favorite authors and podcasters, Carrie Campacus. She is a girl mom. She has 4 daughters, and she writes and speaks to tween and teen girls and their parents. And I wanted to have Carrie's voice in this conversation as I realize that there are different issues for girls than there are for boys. One of the biggest issues being that of friendship issues. So here's a snippet of Carrie's thoughts on how mothers can help their daughters deal with hurt feelings and hard friend situations.
You know, I think the best thing that moms can do is just to be that voice of reason, to stay calm. You know, if you are sad or angry, you know, it's easy to be angry at these girls or angry at these moms. Don't let your daughter see that. You know, have an adult you can vent to, somebody you can talk to. But for us to just be a source of calm and strength for them. And, you know, the good thing is I think that these ups and downs in life, that they really have the opportunity to strengthen our faith. And that's one thing with my daughters is just, you know, try to just I'm going to hurt your feelings. We're all imperfect human beings. You know, people are going to hurt you. They're going to disappoint you. You're going to be left out. You know, you just have to expect that in life. And, you know, that can really strengthen your faith because God is constant. He's the same today as he was yesterday and the day before, or he will be tomorrow. And just really, you know, drive home that faith element. And just, you know, reinforce the point that you can't control what other people do or say to you, but you can control your actions and your behaviors, and you can't go wrong doing what's right.
Such good words. And I also just love Carrie's Southern accent. Okay, so next I'm excited to share a short clip from a special interview which also comes with another helpful download on conflict resolution and peacemaking in families. And for this one, I had my friend, Hawaii director of NCFCA, the Homeschool Speech and Debate League, join me. Miley Higashi is her name, and she's someone I really respect, and she's done an amazing job of gathering resources to share on the topic of conflict resolution and peacemaking. One thing I love about this conversation is that these very skills that we talk about will absolutely transfer and be useful for every area of life for our kids' future, in future relationships, in college or at work, and in their future marriages, and on and on. So I think this is such a valuable conversation.
We have always told our kids, whoever is the recipient of the apology, that they need to forgive right away with a genuine heart and a good attitude. And again, this is not easy. This is something that you're walking alongside them. You're saying you need to forgive them. Say yes. And I, you know, kind of trusting the process and just saying, okay, soon enough, this will become part of just the process of it, the habit of forgiveness. And, you know, gently reminding them also that God forgives us. And so we need to forgive them too. We're not perfect.
That is such a practical topic, and I think you'll get so much out of the download that goes with that interview. Okay, well, next I have a clip from Wendy Speak, who is talking to us about anger and emotions in parenting. Essentially, when our kids' bad behavior causes us to have bad behavior of our own. Wendy is the co-author of the book Triggers, Exchanging Parents' Angry Reactions for Gentle Biblical Responses, and I think she covers this topic so well. And you will be getting a double dose of Wendy because she also joins us for the early years module to talk about practical parenting, practical character training in the early years. I think you'll get a lot out of both of them. Here you go. That's their job, right?
And that's their job. It's their job at 2 to be 2. It's our job at 42 to be 42. And not respond like a 2-year-old. And it seems so silly and we can laugh at it, but it's their job to push us and it's our job to be soft but immovable in some areas and say, oh, I see. You're pushing that boundary. Let me show you why it's here. Let me show you that it is here consistently. Yeah. And it's for your good.
Oh, this is such an important topic. And I know it's something a lot of parents are looking for help in because we actually did this interview in response to feedback we got from beta group members. We threw out a bunch of different parenting topics and asked where people could use more help. And a whole lot of people said, please offer some more help in the area of emotions and anger in parenting in response to kids' character. So I'm really glad we were able to add that, and I'm really grateful that Wendy could take the time to join us for that interview. And now, finally, as I wrap up this very packed sampling of character training course interviews, I want to share the one most near and dear to my heart. And here's why. This course, you might know, was inspired by my experience walking through what I called character training with my son Jonah nearly 6 years ago. And though I didn't mention his name in my book, he doesn't mind at all. All these years later, he joins me to share his experience being a young teen with some challenging character issues to the young man he is today, a 19-year-old who I honestly would describe as being one of the most character-rich young adults I've ever been around. In fact, many of you know that Jonah is now the host of the Truth for Youth podcast, where he encourages young people to develop and embrace godly character for themselves. Pause for mom's happy tears. Yes. It's also a little extra special for me to share this interview because as I record, Jonah has just left to go be on campus in California at Westmont College. After distance learning for the past month, they moved everybody on campus. So I'm really happy for him and excited for this new chapter of his life. But without further ado, here's a couple clips from Jonah and my talk, which is at the end of Module 4 in the character training course.
I think that it was like, as soon as I actually opened my eyes to what my mom was giving me, my parents were giving me, I realized like, wow, this is like a rope being passed to me and I'm in a raging river. Like this is like the route out of this situation, So it was definitely a great thing that I wanted to treasure. And when I opened my eyes to it, I was like, wow, this is such a blessing.
Oh, that is so rewarding for me to hear. And then just a few more words from Jonah before we close.
It's so cool. I think that what my parents have given me is it's not a formula. It's a way of being. It's a way of living that extends way beyond what I can see right now. So what they gave me when I was young is a pattern of living. It's not a specific formula, but it is a pattern of living which I can apply in college, when I have my own family, when I have my own career later on. And I don't know what college is going to look like specifically. I have a general idea. Things, especially with the regulations from the pandemic, it's going to look different. I don't know what it's going to be like, but I can apply this new pattern of living, of, self-reflection and, figuring out where I can grow and pursue God and His Word. I think that I can apply this pattern wherever I go. And I'm really looking forward to doing this at college. So.
Aw, I just love that so much. And he will be getting to do that at college in this next week. So I'm excited to hear from him how that goes. But I did hear from beta group members who said that interview with Jonah was one of their favorite parts of the whole course and that their kids got to listen in and get inspired as well. And I just love hearing that. Well, guys, like I said, this is just a sampling of the interviews. There are more in the character training course, but this is a few clips, and I hope you got something out of each of them. I hope you're encouraged. Hope maybe you can apply some of these little nuggets to your own parenting right away. I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of this podcast community. I would sure love it if you could share this episode with your friends so that everyone knows that next Monday the doors will open to the character training course, which is now really for parents of kids of all ages. It is packed. I've poured my heart and soul into it, and I just hope it is such an encouragement and a blessing to families everywhere. So please spread the word. You can leave your name and email address over at monicaswanson.com/character-course, and you'll be first to know when the doors open. They will only be open for 5 days next week, so don't miss it. All right, guys, I want to thank you again for your ratings and reviews. We are almost at 500. So if you haven't left yours yet, would you bless me by finishing up this episode and then scrolling down to the bottom on your phone, finding those 5 stars, clicking on them. And if you want to leave a few words about what you love most about the Boy Mom podcast, that would mean so much to me. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of this podcast community. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And until next time, aloha.